Well, first of all, Tom, great to talk to you. How have you found it so far, life as Chief Executive at Aston Villa Football Club?
Well, look at the weather. First of all, it's fantastic here in the West Midlands. I tell you, I've been really welcomed by the club, and it's made a big difference. I was talking to somebody earlier today, and I told them that when I left Arsenal, I didn't just leave a job, I left a family. Spent 5 years there working with those people and was very close to everybody there, and it's been a really warm welcome for me. So I feel like I've left one family and come into another.
Yeah, a football club is a way of life, isn't it, as you found at Arsenal?
Well, it is, and obviously with a new chief exec coming in, people don't quite know what to expect, but everyone's been great. I feel like I've been here longer than 3.5 weeks. People have been taking really good care of me, showing me around the club, going out of their way to make sure that I really understand what this club is to them, what it means to the community, and how important it is. And they've done a great job of that. I've got a good sense of that in a short period of time.
What is it that attracted you to this post then, first and foremost?
Well, the first thing, quite frankly, was the chairman, meeting with the owner, with Randy. It's always been incredibly important for me who I work for, and I have to believe in the business, obviously, first and foremost, but I have to believe in the person that I'm working for. And when I met Randy for the first time this summer in New York, we were able to build a relationship and a rapport very, very quickly. And I believe in his love of this club. I could sense his frustration at what had happened over the last few years, and I could really sense his desire that we go in a different direction, that we create a different direction of travel and really try to deliver this club back to where it deserves to be within the Premier League and within European football. But as far as the job itself, what I saw in Aston Villa was a club very similar to the club I was working at. I think, if you were to go back 15 or 20 years, there were so many similarities between the Arsenal and the Villa, and the way that they are thought of within the game, and their history and the pedigree that they have within the game. And 5 years ago at Arsenal, we needed to invest in people and capability, and I see the same opportunity here. All the ingredients are there. We just need to put some investment into the right areas and create the right plan, and we can get back to where we deserve to be.
What do you mean exactly? Is it in terms of the tradition, the fan base, the stadium, that sort of thing, or where they can go potentially in the future?
Well, look, I think the fans should be proud of this club. I think it's only in the last 10 to 12 years where the game has changed so dramatically. It has become such a financially driven game. And I give the Arsenal board a lot of credit, because when they decided to leave Highbury, which was a wonderful ground, but as I look around Villa Park, it certainly wasn't the ground that we have here. When they decided to leave that ground, that was a very unpopular decision at a time when they were winning everything. They were exchanging FA Cups and league championships with Man United at the time. It was not a popular move, but it was a very visionary thing for them to do, because they looked into the future of the game and said, this is what we need to do to be successful. But up until that point, the clubs were two of the most well-respected and successful clubs in English football. And so it's only in the last 12 years, as the game has turned more towards the business side, as the revenue coming in and the ability for that revenue to change the fortunes on the pitch has started to dominate the game, that Villa maybe hasn't kept pace with a club like Arsenal. But that doesn't have to be the way it always is. It doesn't have to be what our future looks like.
Yeah, how much of a challenge is it for you to take Villa forward and to modernise the club whilst respecting its traditions?
Yeah, and by the way, that is really important, because first and foremost, this is a football club, and all of the things that are wrapped up in a football club, you have to make sure you maintain that relationship with your supporter, the relationship with the community. And as you begin to understand how to build a better business infrastructure around the club, you can't lose sight of those things. It is one of the most important lessons I learned over the past 5 years. And so it is a difficult challenge, but all of the ingredients are here. I think we do have a manager who is thinking long-term, trying to make long-term decisions about the squad and thinking strategically about our style of play and how we get there. I think we've got incredible support in the community across the West Midlands. We are by far the biggest club in this area. We have an incredible stadium, which every time I learn something new about it, it impresses me. Underneath this old sort of traditional exterior is technology in every corner that turns the lights on and turns the sprinklers on and creates an environment that makes it very easy for people to keep it looking new and fresh. So there's a tremendous amount of assets here to work with, and I think we've got a really good chance to get the club back. Not in 1 year, not tomorrow, not in the next several weeks, but over time to get the club back really, and I keep using the word, where it deserves to be.
Yeah. You said that when you first joined, you want it back in its rightful place. Do you know what that rightful place is exactly, or is it difficult to quantify?
Here's what I think, and I don't know, and you certainly don't want to limit your ambition, and so I'm conscious of saying one thing and maybe to some people having it seem as if we're artificially limiting our ambition. I've spent enough time in the business of sport and now within the world of football to understand that it is a game that is driven by your ability to spend on your squad. I don't think there's any question that we should be a club that is perennially from 6 to 9 to 10 in the league, certainly in the top half of the league, competing for domestic cups, competing for a place in Europe, likely Europa League, but I love the fact that Europa League winners now have the ability to play in the Champions League. I don't think there's any reason why, as I look at all of the ingredients that are here and think about where we can begin to generate more revenue on the strength of what our club stands for internationally and in other markets, and on the great support that we have here, that we can't put ourselves in that position. That's where we should be, and that's where I think we should all be expecting the club to be.
Yeah, you'll get to know the fans better as the months and years progress, of course, won't you? But we always talk with the fans about those glorious European nights and cup glory as well, and that's what they want to sample again.
Well, Paul and I the manager and I went to Dortmund. He was scouting Arsenal, but it was a great opportunity to go back to a place that obviously had special significance for him, having played there and won a Champions League there. And as he and I were sitting down and we were soaking up the atmosphere on a Tuesday night in Dortmund, and I said, we're not just scouting Arsenal, we're actually scouting this experience again, because this is what we want to bring back to our fans. And this is a club that used to have that as sort of a regular occurrence. It would be fantastic to bring a midweek European match and a series of matches back here, starting in the Europa League. I think that would be fantastic. It's not easy. It's going to be a challenge. We've got to put a solid plan in place around how we make football decisions. We've got to put a solid plan in place around how we build and grow those commercial revenues. We've got to bring in some additional resource and people to get that done. But I see how we can do that. I look and it makes sense to me when I start to lay those things end on end. That's not some wild dream. That's actually a journey I think we can go on. While I understand the last 4 or 5 years may have been somewhat frustrating, what's going to help us on that journey, which I believe is achievable, is if they're here and the stadium is full and they're behind the manager and they're behind the club and they're behind the squad.
Yeah, it was great to see the ground with over 40,000 people in it, wasn't it? Okay, the result didn't go our way. There were mitigating factors, but for that stadium to be rocking at kickoff, Paul Lambert uses that word rocking, and that's what we want to achieve.
I think it's so important to the squad to know that they can come in and expect that level of support. And I also think it's important for the supporters to know where the club is going and for the club to articulate what we think is possible and where we're going. And I think that's part of the exchange. I don't think you can expect the supporters to keep coming and doing what they've been doing for this club for over 100 years without understanding what the club is thinking and where we think we can go. And that's what I'm hopefully going to offer in the next few years, at least is an honest assessment of where I think we can get to, how we're going to get there, and start that honest dialogue with the supporters. And hopefully, if we can build that relationship, we can get this place really rocking again.
And the fans will want to know about any potential contracts being signed. Can you shed any light on that, or anything that might happen in January?
I don't really know. Thankfully for me, I started after the transfer window was closed, and I think the club had already done some really impressive business in the summer, and I was really pleased to see how the squad had changed the outgoings and the incomings, and I think they all did a great job. I don't think it's any secret we are in the process of trying to create a better system within the club for making the decisions on the playing side. We've recently brought Paddy Riley back to the club from Liverpool. We are having a lot of conversations about the academy, about the decision-making process around players, about player evaluation, about scouting. That is part of the investment and part of the plan that we're going to put together.
We've talked about player recruitment. Is that one of the principal parts of your role? Because I think a lot of fans perhaps don't fully understand exactly what a chief executive does, what your role will be. Is it mainly looking at commercial opportunities and that player recruitment side? Are they the two main things that you do?
Yeah, I mean, in its simplest form, I think that's right. I think the player recruitment piece is a big part of what the chairman is hoping we can start to do differently at the club. We have a great track record, as everybody knows, and as I said, of developing young talent and bringing them through. But even that business is changing. I described the way football has changed over the last 12 years. The amount of data that is now available and the data that you can use to make smarter decisions around scouting and recruitment is available to us, and it's up to us to try to understand that data, to fit it into our style of play, our wage bill, and to utilize it as much as we can to get the most out of what we have.
Interesting what you were saying about Randy Lerner and his love of the club. That's been apparent over the years. It's clear that Randy is fully committed, isn't he, to Aston Villa and putting it in a good footing.
Look, I have told everybody that has asked me, I came here to work for Randy Lerner. My whole background in sports and in business has been as a marketer, as a builder, as someone who can organize and help things grow. And I came in to do that with Randy, and it was my relationship, as I said early on, with him that really that made me as interested as I was to come to Aston Villa. And when I talk to him now, he sounds like someone who bought the club last week. I mean, I know he's owned it for years, but he really is enthused and energized. And he said something to me when we first met. He said, I just want to start having fun with it again. And I don't think that's a lot for the owner to ask. He wants, like a fan, to be able to come here and enjoy the experience and to know that the club is generating pride among the people for whom it matters so much. That's ultimately what we're all here to do. We can talk about the business all you want, but the business is here to enable the football, and the football is here to generate pride among the fan base. And Randy's a fan, and I think he's starting to feel that pride again for the club, and he sounds fully engaged to me. I have nothing else to compare it to, but he'll talk to me for hours when we get on the phone if I'll let him. So he's been fantastic so far. He's been a big reason, as I said, for why this is an exciting opportunity for me.
Yeah, David Strudley, Chief Executive of Acorns, who we've had a great relationship with.
Yeah,
the legendary David is a lovely guy. And that has been, I have to say, one of the most heartwarming aspects of working here for a number of years, the way that has developed. I know it's close to Randy's heart, and that's just one example of what Villa can do in the community and be more than just a football club.
I have been, over the past 5 years working in football, some of the moments I'm most proud of are the things that we were able to do to change people's lives, to give them an experience they could never have imagined before. The power of football to excite young kids or to motivate people to do things that they didn't think possible, you can never underestimate it. I was lucky enough to meet a young man who unfortunately was the victim of a racial beating in Brighton. He happened to be an Arsenal fan, and he was left for dead and severely brain damaged. We gave him a chance to come into the club, watch a match in the director's box, meet the players, meet the manager, and that was held out to him as something that he could do if he worked hard in his rehabilitation, if it was something he felt, his doctors felt he'd earned. And the people around him said he'd never worked harder. He actually got up out of his wheelchair and was walking and working really hard. And seeing the look on his face that day when the players would stop and lean down to listen to what he had to say, those moments exist with our partner here at Acorns. They exist every single day in every single match in and around this ground. The power of football is immense, and if we can keep that positive feeling flowing, it's a great place to be.